Joining me now is attorney Audrey Perry Martin. She's a political law expert and former legal counsel to the McCain-Palin campaign of '08. Audrey, they say. So let's start in Pennsylvania, and we've already got a few legal challenges to the ballots there. Thousands are scrambling to vote after mail-in ballots were tossed out. It was a date issue on those. What is the legal basis that the court is using to throw out these ballots?
Well, in Pennsylvania, the law is pretty clear that you have to both sign and date your ballot. They also have very specific rules about putting it in a secrecy envelope. That we saw was an issue in the 2020 election. And then they have these ballot cure rules that are a little bit up in the air, and they were an issue in 2020 as well. The problem in Pennsylvania is that some of the counties are implementing this law and some of them aren't. And so that makes for an unfair election. And so the parties that are going to court are kind of battling this out. And I do want to be clear that these ballots that weren't dated weren't thrown away. They were just set aside to be decided later by a court or litigation. So they still could be counted.
So how long could this delay an already process that could be delayed?
Right. Well, it really depends on how many ballots are affected and how close the race is. So if we've got a really tight Senate race in Pennsylvania, it's going to take a while to sort these out. There'll be court cases, there'll be litigation back and forth, and then ultimately a decision on whether or not these ballots will be counted. If the race isn't very close, it's not going to be a big deal because they're not going to bring litigation because it's not going to change the results one way or the other. So that's kind of what we're watching. And Pennsylvania's slow to count anyway because they can't count until Election Day.
Yeah, so that's one we're going to be watching in the days to come. Georgia's another one. Audrey, you know, judge extended the deadline to receive 1,000 absentee ballots in Cobb County. Those ballots were not sent out. This was due to a clerical error. So I'm wondering, does a human error create a lane for future legal action down the road if it is close?
It does, absolutely. And there's always small issues. Elections, we run them county by county in the US. And that means, you know, we have a lot of flexibility, but we also have a lot of human error because there's so many people who are doing this and every county does it a little bit differently. And so in Georgia, where the ballots were set aside, I think there's around 200 people who still hadn't received their ballot yesterday. They will, you know, that will probably go to court, will be litigated, and they'll figure out how to deal with those ballots afterwards. They'll likely separate them out.
Voter intimidation, I've mentioned this several times throughout the morning. We're seeing it in a number of states. Arizona is one. What qualifies as intimidation in the court's view?
You know, it's a state-by-state issue, and each state has different laws on what's intimidation and what the consequences of intimidating voters are. I think what was going on in Arizona definitely would count as intimidation in almost every state. But things that you saw today reported in North Carolina, where there were some people taking pictures of voters, if they were outside of the electioneering line, that's probably not going to be intimidation unless it rises a little bit higher than that.
And then there are legal steps that are taken in Arizona for 75 feet distance between people who are casting their ballots and the people who are showing up to essentially intimidate them. What are some of the other legal steps that are put into place in other states to prevent this?
So almost every state has a 70 to 100-foot range where you cannot be talking to voters if you're not actually in line voting yourself. That includes, you know, third parties, political parties, candidates, everybody. You can't have a rally for an election right at the entrance to a polling location. And so that is the main law in place in most of these states to stop intimidation. The other thing that I think helps reduce the violence and intimidation is a lot of transparency in the process. So in the past couple of years, a lot of states have passed laws allowing for the ballot counting to be streamed live on video. And I think when people can see the process and feel like it's being transparent, they're more confident and less likely to buy into the rhetoric and engage in these kinds of behaviors.
And talking about the process, we've seen it change in different states. Nevada this year is moving to the cycle of universal mail-in voting. A number of states already do this. I lived in Washington for almost a decade. We were mail-in voting there. Does a vote by mail increase chances for election fraud? And what do attorneys watch closely with mail-in voted versus in person?
It really depends on the law in the state. Some states have really figured out mail ballots, and they're very good at cleaning up their voter rolls. One of the biggest problems with mail ballots is if you don't have a voter roll that's updated regularly, and you have dead people on the rolls, you have people who've moved on the rolls. In California right now, we're getting lots of reports of people getting multiple ballots at their house, ballots for people they don't know. That always makes people nervous because you don't know who's going to turn those in. However, there are checks on that. They do verify the signatures. They do make sure that they're only counting one ballot for every individual. And so it is a little bit more susceptible to fraud, but not much. It's still a very safe way to vote. And they still have a lot of checks in the counties to make sure that they're only counting one vote per person.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.